Welcome to this journey where we dialogue with thought and heart leaders to share their reflections on human condition and how to improve them.
The first question is more about you, Annemie.
Yeah,
You grew up in South Africa, and
I did.
yeah,
Yeah.
what are your earlier memories with South Africa as you were growing as an individual?
Well, I think. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to go something quieter because can you hear this background noise or not?
Yes, there is a background noise.
Okay, let me do some walking. You can go with me. I'm at the Royal Academy of Art,
Yeah,
so you can see where
take your
I'm
time. Take your
going.
time.
I'm going. I'm going. I'm going. Okay, I might go in here. I think that's better. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is
I'll just
brilliant.
close the door. Hold on, let me just lock the door.
This
That's better. And now I can stand like that. Cool.
okay. This is
So you
brilliant.
asked me about South Africa.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So I think my earliest memories were of being far from the rest of the world, being but of nature, of a country that was very divided. Yet, you know, I always had very close relationships with everybody in the country, so it was almost a bit foreign in some ways as well. Not at home, not understanding why things were the way they were. Yeah, so that's some of the earliest memories.
Okay, that's good. And you chose you became a human rights attorney as your first profession. How was that like? And if you can share something about that, how did that come
Yes,
about?
yeah. So I never really practiced law. I didn't want to practice law, but what really inspired me was human rights. And so what I set up in Johannesburg was just after the changes happened, we created something called the Human Rights Information Center, which is really at local government level, trying to bring to life what human rights mean on a daily basis for people, which is very different to saying, we now have a Bill of Rights, but it was taking that and translating it so that everyday people could understand not only what are their rights, but also their responsibilities. Because I think with rights come big responsibilities, and we sometimes don't share that as well. And so we did campaigns, did a lot of education for women, for children. And the key emphasis always was to bring it to life in a very, very practical way, because otherwise these things were abstract in a country where they never really existed. So that's why I was really keen on doing it at local government level as opposed to only relying on national initiatives for this type of work.
That's interesting. That's interesting. My next curiosity, Anime, is that if we dive into how the corporate space is, or this whole
Yeah.
entrepreneurial space is, we see that there is a huge shareholder bias. Have you been sensing this in your journey, that there is a huge shareholder bias when you take decisions at the top level?
I can honestly say I've worked for amazing businesses, whether it was eBay, PayPal, Skype, and even some of the clients I work with now. So I know academically that bias exists. But in my view, I've always been fortunate to work with leaders who were aware of the risk of that bias. And ironically, it was when I worked with smaller businesses that bias, who might have been publicly listed, that bias was stronger, um, rather than with some of the bigger businesses I worked with, because I think there you had leaders who were able to resist some of those pressures, whereas if you're a small business who've just listed, don't maybe have a lot of cash, and you are really at the mercy of your shareholders. So that's really my personal experience.
Okay, that's nice. Um, what has been your personal meditation on the subject of organizing humans together?
Yeah.
We know that from a long history, humans have had a pretty checkered organization in terms of
Yeah.
being hunter gatherer, and then agriculture, and then kingdoms, and now corporations, and governments and society. Do you think do you think there is elasticity in terms of the number of people that could be coming together for an organization?
Yeah, and I must say, my views have shifted and changed on this topic over the last few years. I think it's actually much more complex and that we sometimes oversimplify it, right? So I don't think there is one right answer or one right way to organize. I think we need to take account of culture, we need to take account of all this stuff that what's happening more broadly in the world at a given point in time. And then I think we also should not impose Western notions of democracy on countries and places where Western democracy might not be the right model to follow. I think that's the one view I have. The other view I have is also that we need to be really focused on acknowledging that the best way to change the world is by starting with ourselves and helping the people we interact with on a day-to-day basis. So my journey really has been one of, I want to change and have things be organized differently globally, but actually, whilst I can try and do that, and I do, I, on a daily basis, rather want to impact the people that I interact with in whatever way possible to bring out the best in them and to help them the best I can.
Yeah, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I was hearing one of your interviews at Wisdom 2.0, 2012, and to one of the questions you had laid out a very nice answer where you said what you think is important for organizing human is to have the right balance of autonomy, mastery, and meaning. Do you think the view is still consistent? Have you added anything? Have you added anything to that view?
I think for me, it's really in today's world where everything is so uncertain and ever changing. I think it's even more important to give people, intrinsically motivate people. I think money is not enough to give people in a work environment stability, making them feel secure. I think if you look at particularly not only millennials, but people today, they're searching for that purpose and that meaning, and they want to work in an organization that makes that meaning happen for the people who work there, but also for the customers. And so I think even now more than today, it's all about autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So give people the autonomy within a defined framework to be their best self. I think give them the ability to learn as they become their best selves, and mastery to develop a master, to develop mastery in whatever it is that they want to do, whether it's the what or the how of what they do. And then lastly, help them just have that sense of meaning that is bigger than themselves, because we're all looking for that, particularly in this unstable world.
Yeah, interesting. So as humans, we have this innate need to both stand out and belong. Somehow seems to be contradictory. And organizations really have a tough time organizing these two contradictory things. Like, how do you get the best collaboration and competition internally so that the organization as a whole is fitter in the environment that it operates? Any reflections you have on that, or how do you think this could be better achieved on a constant basis?
Yeah, and I think the world's really going to change. I think organizations are going to have to pay attention to this. But ironically, with artificial intelligence, all of those things being part of the workforce in the future, organizations will have to redefine the relationship between technology and humans, between humans and each other. I think you will see people have many more portfolio type jobs, so work for different companies at different times, at the same time doing different things, so work for different companies at the same time doing different things, so they might have multiple senses of loyalty. And I think it's really going to require organizations to redefine that sense of belonging, because if you work for loads of different companies, the sense of belonging really just won't be there. So how will we ensure that people get and deliver their best work to those companies? And I think it goes back to what I said earlier. It's by really being clear on, when you work with us, whether it's for 100% or 20% of your time, what you will get here is you'll help us change the world, purpose, meaning. You will develop. And lastly, I would say you yeah, you'll have the autonomy to define your own destiny. Hmm.
Yep. Have you seen any large scale organization following this particular methodology? You seen
Hmm.
that?
Yeah, so I would say definitely the early days of eBay, and I think to a great extent also Skype. And I'm working with a lovely German innovation team at the moment, um, who are doing business model innovation, trying to reconfigure the business model of a really old established German business. And critical to the work of the innovation team is giving the team that sense of autonomy, mastery, purpose, and really on a daily basis. So people have a lot of freedom. They learn a lot because they have a lot of freedom, and they're really working on creating a different definition of what energy distribution in the future will mean. So that I would say yes in this German business that I'm currently working with, and definitely also with eBay and Skype in the early days.
Okay, that's nice. Um, so we all know from a little experience that organizations keep a lot of keep their employees busy through several training programs, and you often hear employees engaging into different training programs on site, off site. Are you seeing a shift in the way this whole training stroke education stroke learning paradigm is shifting, and what would that
Yeah,
be?
yeah, and maybe I'm going to be the contrarian here because I think a lot of companies are investing money in e-learning, etc. I think it has its place for some real basics, but I think what you will start seeing again, which is what we're really trying to do, is have very bite-sized learning, but then application and experimentation with real-world commercial challenges. So the learning in itself again follows this approach of there's something you'll come to learn, but we're going to work on something bigger. So we want to make a difference in consequence of the learning. You will have the opportunity to define how you apply your learning yourself. So we'll just give you the framework. And at the same time, what I'm seeing people really value is doing that learning in community with others. So that these are interventions where you bring people together, you work on commercial challenges, but you also help them make those human connections. So learning becomes a shared experience where we all help each other.
Yeah, that's nice to hear. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and yes, it's indeed contrarian for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Organizations and individuals have started experimenting with inner engineering,
Yeah.
the inner selves. What has been your reflection on how organizations or different organizations are experimenting with different such techniques, and your own personal journey? How do you take care of your own inner journey?
So let's start with what I've observed, which gives me a lot of hope and encouragement, which is I'm seeing a lot of mindfulness practices now become common and at the order of the day on the agenda for a lot of senior leaders. And maybe we don't use the language of mindfulness, but it's used as how do you get the power of focus? How do you manage your energy more appropriately? And so I work with an amazing team called the Energy Project who really also help leaders in many businesses to manage their energy across physical, emotional, mental, and spirit dimensions. And that is probably some of the most impactful work I've seen with brands that you will really be surprised that they're engaging in it. And then for myself, I try and do the same. I'm not that good because I travel, but I think for me the biggest thing is this journey needs to start with me. And if I'm authentically going to be telling other leaders to do the same, I have to do it and I have to fail. Because it's in talking about the failure and getting up and trying again that I think we really learn both for ourselves and for the businesses we work with.
Yeah, it's nice. Like I like the way I've seen your earlier interviews also. You're very candid, and I think that's something that comes out as a striking feature of interacting with
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Thank
Um,
you.
so some are saying this whole technologization is penetrating our lives. If I
Yeah.
see things around me right now, and if you see things around you right now, it has technology stroke science written all over it.
Yeah.
So with technology slowly displacing jobs and also in some way people getting very addictive with certain technologies. Where do you think we are going to be left with all this in terms of our gainful and
Yeah.
meaningful employment in the future?
I think we can choose fear, or we can choose to see this as an opportunity for abundance, for creating new roles for ourselves, for having a mindset that says, I believe that the future will be better and I'm going to make a difference and I will help redefine it, as opposed to saying technology is encroaching on everything and taking our jobs. I think we shouldn't be lazy. I think that's the lazy way of being. By buying into the fear, I think the much tougher, more interesting, and challenging world for us is to say, what is the abundance that this will create? And how can we really embrace that abundance in a way that creates new jobs, new opportunities, redefines how technology can actually help humans, how humans and technology can work together. I think that's really where I'm coming from, as opposed to what I call the little bit lazy place of being fearful and buying into all the negativity.
Yeah, that's nice. Um, we are also seeing, so on one side we have technology displacing jobs, on the other side protectionism coming in very, very
Yeah,
strongly. Um, we know some of the announcements that are being made by leading countries of the world. There's a
yeah,
huge protectionism working, and then there are these conflict zones across the world that are producing a lot of immigrants,
yeah.
and the concerns about their lives. Uh, what do you feel will shift in the ways businesses would shift their strategies given these political protectionism and conflict immigration?
Yeah, I mean, that's really, really a tough question, right? And again, um, I don't think it's going to be a one size fits all solution. I again go back to my earlier point, right? There are businesses who are going to be fearful, and there are businesses who will see this as an opportunity. The same with governments. And I think if we come from a place of fear, neuroscience shows us we can't be creative, we're closed down, we want to do fight or flight, we want to run away. Whereas, again, if businesses embrace this mindset of abundance and the opportunities, although terribly difficult, complicated, and sometimes very sad, that these changes create, if we just embrace them, I think we'll be in a much better world than simply going, let's do what all the other corporations and leaders do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good.
Um, last few curiosities, anyway.
Okay.
Any book or video or person that has really made you stop and think in the last few weeks or months?
Yeah. So might be a bit controversial, but there is a book called The Second Coming, and it's quite a it's not a satire, but it's a story of God going on holiday for a week and in heaven, and he talks to Muhammad and everybody. But so there's a lovely community out there which doesn't exist on Earth. So when he goes on holiday, it's the Renaissance, and when he comes back, it's 2011 because a week in heaven takes much longer on Earth. And he goes, what went wrong with all of this? And so it's then the story of, in a very inspiring way, slightly controversial though, not really about religion, but how it all unpacks and gives you that perspective of what's happened in the world from a very, very different point of view. I've not finished the book, but it's made me really sit back and reflect on, what are some of the things that we did get wrong the last however many 100 years?
Actually, that's a segue to the next question that I wanted to put up, which is, what is the question nowadays that is something that you spend a lot of time reflecting on? Is there a question you would like to share with us that you spend a lot of time reflecting on?
Yeah, it goes back to that point I made. The question I reflect on is, how can we help everyone, individuals, corporations in the world, shift from a mindset of fear towards one of embracing the abundance that difficult, extreme situations, technology, politics will bring us? Because I think if we don't grapple with that question, if we don't answer that question, we're probably not in for that greater future.
Okay. Um, that's a warning, I would say.
Okay.
So anyway, if you could share your journey of starting Purple Beach, how did the thought come about? How's your own journey of setting this interesting platform or network
Yeah.
is coming about?
Yeah, so I loved working in the corporate world, but I always loved the power that can come from bringing hugely creative ideas and people together with business people. And so for me, really, Purple Beach is a it's if I speak to business leaders, I say it's a people and innovation consultancy. But if I talk to members of the community, I say it's a collection of great minds who love to solve wicked, really difficult problems.
Wow.
And so, yeah, and
Wow.
so because we have to moderate our language, right? When we speak to business leaders, sometimes we have to explain in very different terms compared to, how we would normally think about it. And so, yes, at Purple Beach, it's been hard work. It's 5 years old now. We have our fifth annual experience. Every year we have one where we bring together people. We create a beach in London. We bring together very interesting thought and conversation partners who I believe the answers do not lie in people standing on stage. For me, Purple Beach is really creating a beach where people can come together and share ideas about the tough challenges that we face today and so shift mindsets to embrace this notion of abundance. So we've worked with very many diverse clients over the last 5 years. Have I said to you, I might have, that it's been really hard work, but extremely fun. Um, and so our annual experience this year is all about what I said earlier. Who needs balance when you can embrace extremes? So it's about how do we embrace the extremes that we face today with abundance. We have amazing thought partners coming. And so what we tend to do after the event is to take the insights and go and work with businesses on doing innovation in a different way, on doing leadership in a different way, on just growing commercially in a way that embraces some of the learning. So we have the learning, we test the learning, and the next year we come back and choose a theme, which again will focus on what's relevant at the given point in time. So it comes from business, and we take it back to business, the solutions as well.
Sounds exciting. Sounds very exciting.
Yeah, have a nice day.
Thank you so much, Annemie. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.